Hey guys, I'm back, and as you can see by my black t-shirt, this is a Halloween edition, so it's gonna be scary. And when I say scary, I don't just mean scary, I mean like psychologically scary, because today I'm gonna rank all the Black Mirror episodes I've seen. Honestly, with Black Mirror, I haven't seen all the episodes, because it is mentally traumatizing to watch multiple episodes at once.
Emotional damage!
I've only seen 13, which is perfect, because it's the unlucky number, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. So anyway, that is what I'm doing today. It's gonna be really deep dive into each episode, really see how it messes with the head. Very scary stuff. So if I don't come out of this video live, just know what happened. Anyway, so before I start with that, I have to give a big shout out to One Piece, the live action, because that show was great. Like, I've seen all the live actions before. Like, unfortunately, I have seen Death Note live action, and I have seen the Avatar one, and they're very bad. Honestly, if I were to have a list of the worst movies I've ever seen, they would probably be on there. So yeah, I was very skeptical about the live action, but they did an amazing job. Like, I felt like they picked a really nice cast that had a lot of chemistry, and they all did a great job at embodying their character. The set was really nice. They could clearly spend a fortune on making it look like a pirate adventure. And there's great humor, and the plot moves relatively quickly. So if you're feeling intimidated by the original anime like I was, I'd say check out the live action and see if you like it, because that is a great way to start off with the show. So yeah, shout out to One Piece there. Alright, time to start with this part. Okay, so as you can see, I did the standard tiering, and then I put all the episodes I haven't seen here, and there's a good amount. So, if you think that there's an episode here that I should see, comment down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe. That's important too. So, I guess I'll be ranking each of these. And I'll kind of just say what I feel about it and then go into full details. So if there's an episode that you don't want to see and you don't want me to spoil it, I suggest you skip. Alright, let's get started. Okay. This is what I watched recently actually. Joan is awful. I have to say, I like Annie Murphy. I've always liked her because Schitt's Creek is one of her shows, right? So it's really entertaining to see her and Salma Hayek as star power in this episode. And it's somewhat funny, but also very, very cringy. I will say, I do see how this thing has relevance in modern society, because artificial intelligence is constantly taking things from people without their permission. We've seen that quite frequently. So I can't say that this is too crazy. I will say I didn't find this episode mostly cringy though, and the ending was really confusing. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like they were sending a clear message as they tried to rebel. Then having the whole thing with them being in multiple layers, that just got way too far for me. It's honestly kind of mid. Hmm. I don't hate it, so I'm gonna leave it in B tier. Okay, National Anthem. Okay, I really don't like this episode. I it's one of the first episodes, and I already had no liking to this. But yeah, honestly, the whole episode is really dark, and it's not even interesting though. I generally don't see the point of this episode. Going into the spoilery part, there's a huge social media thing, right? Prime Minister's supposed to do something terrible. He winds up having no choice but to do it. There's just all this drama. I generally don't see the point of any of it. It was mostly just really awkward. Honestly, I kind of wish I skipped this episode, so C tier. Alright. So far I've had some pretty complaints here. It didn't seem like I liked the show, but luckily I landed on this episode. 15 million merits. I have to say, like, this is one of the first episodes I saw of this, and I have not seen a single episode top this one for me. Like, I absolutely love this episode. So obviously this is gonna go in S tier. I'll explain why. I know this one is probably like the most relevant for me anyway. So this episode basically shows like a society where everyone is pedaling on bikes. They don't really explain how they got to the apocalyptic level, but basically everyone's like pedaling bikes to make society like function. It powers up their screens, and in this society, you earn merits by pedaling. And if you have enough merits, you can go on a game show. That's not really a game show; it's more like a reality show, like AGT. And if you win the reality show, then you can get a chance at a better life. Honestly, I found this episode really interesting. I thought it was really relevant, especially since people are so obsessed with like buying stuff in video games with actual money. And like people seem more obsessed with like reality shows than they are with what really happens in the world. Also, there's the fact that there's screens everywhere. Like I feel like I can't escape a screen today. So I feel like there's so many like powerful messages like right in this episode. And to go into that ending, it's such a cool ending, I think. Like the fact that like he tries to escape, but you just can't escape. I know this whole episode just resonates with me. I absolutely love it. All right. Hey, this one. Entire history of you. Okay, I remember this one. So basically in this one, it's like there's like an implant in your ear, which basically kind of like helps you remember everything in your life. It stores like every image. And I will say, I feel like that's definitely foreseeable in the future. People are obsessed with remembering everything. I feel like someone would definitely try to make like an implant. I will say the episode is very sad. Yeah. To go into like the details of this, basically this guy watches his marriage fall apart because he's obsessed with one memory of his wife. And it's just super, super sad. Like I could see this definitely happening. Like the more stuff that you're able to hold on to, like the harder it is to move on. So it's sad. It's pretty relevant, I'd say. It's definitely a solid one. I'll put this in A tier. Okay, White Bear. So for White Bear, okay. So this one is an interesting one. This one's kind of a horror one. So if you're watching any like Black Mirror and you want to see like a kind of Halloween theme, I'd say this is like the one to watch. Also Playtest, but I'll go into that in more detail later. So for this episode, it's kind of like about the media and also our obsession with like phones, as well as like some stuff to do with reality. So to get into that, there's like this lady who's like running through a forest, and whenever she asks someone to help her out, they just keep holding a phone at her. And I will say it sounds like a thriller. In order to like really explain the technology stuff that I interpreted, I'd have to like spoil it. So I'm gonna say that now. So I know in this episode, it's kind of like I think it's supposed to be about the media, cause like I feel like the whole thing with her like forgetting her memory and having this whole reset thing, that's kind of a stretch for like technology. But I don't think that's like the main message. Like I'm sure like the whole thing where like your whole reality can be manipulated is like part of it. But I think the main part is supposed to be about the media. Because at the end they show how like she was kind of like a bystander in a crime. Not an innocent in any way, but like she wasn't like the worst person. But like the whole like media is portraying her as like this awful selfish woman. And you can see like how everyone's desensitive because of like the phones. So it's kind of crazy to see how like there's a huge change in morality there. When you let like people become like the Punisher. And I feel like that's the main part of this episode. because it's crazy to see how, like, especially in modern time, just by watching something through a certain perspective, like on the news, it can completely influence how you think of something. So I'd say this is a very interesting episode. I'll put this in A tier. Okay, Waldo. See, I don't hate this episode, but I don't really like it. Okay, basically for Waldo, it's like there's like this avatar guy called Waldo who's played by this guy. And basically they decided to run him for president as a joke, and he actually gained popularity. So just by saying that, you could already kind of tell like what this is supposed to be about in real life, like how politics is like literally a joke, and how just because like a politician says like some really deep, hard hitting information, like joking around, if that resonates with the people will vote for the person, even if the candidate is a complete joke. So I'm not gonna go into specifics about modern times. I think people can connect the dots there. But I can definitely see the message of this. But I feel like it just gets lost in translation. Like there's so much like personal drama in this episode, and it feels like it goes nowhere. So I'll be nice. I'll put it in B tier. Okay, next up is White Christmas. Okay, this one's a great one. So basically, this one, despite like, yeah, it's kind of ironic actually. It's called White Christmas. It sounds like a really holiday type of fun, but it's very dark. I mean, for this episode and this show is like the best thing. So basically, this episode, there's like this technology involving two people, and they're each telling their stories in the cabin about this technology. Like, the society has like very advanced technology, and like it has the potential to do some very dangerous things. So now to get into this, I'm gonna go into some spoilers. All right. So for this episode, like it was a very interesting message actually, because like there's one guy who gets blocked by his wife. And when they block people in the society, like you can't see them at all. You can't hear them at all, like anytime, anywhere. Like your contact is just cut off. Like which is really scary actually. Like imagine like never getting to talk to someone again over one time thing. And then there's also technology where there's this thing called a cookie, which is basically like Google Home, but it literally has you in it, like a digital clone of you. So the Google Home will know exactly what you want, which sounds nice for you, but apparently these clones actually feel like us and they think they are a real person. So it's kind of a morality issue as to whether digital clones should exist. Yeah. And then the clones also have this thing where, like, because they feel like a real person, they'll torture them to get information out of them. So there's like a morality issue there. So there's a lot of really interesting morality issues about technology going on in this episode, and there's so much suspense to it. Like you wonder how the stories are gonna come together, and the whole episode is just very creepy in the best way. Like I was hooked the whole time I saw it, wondering like what would happen at the end to this guy. Well, there's two guys actually, but you're wondering what will happen to both of them because the whole society is very off, and they don't tell you what's going on exactly, so it's very intense. There's a lot of suspense, and also that ending. I'll say this episode has a really interesting ending because like we often talk about how technology brings everyone together, right? Like we can contact anyone we want. But this episode really shows you that technology can also divide us in an extreme manner. Like both of these guys like have like big issues. Like I'm not gonna pretend like they're innocent people because they're both terrible people. But I'll say the one guy who was like involved in like the death of someone else, versus the guy who killed multiple people. I feel like that guy is a lot worse than the other, but they're both essentially getting the same punishment at the end. Technology has managed to completely cut them off from society, and it's absolutely tragic. So I think there's a brilliant sense of irony in that, because technology is supposed to bring us together, but it has completely isolated them in this situation. So it's quite interesting, but it's sad, but it's interesting. I mean, that's like basically a Black Mirror, though. This one's gonna go on the top. And I will say, don't watch this with a little sibling who gets scared. They will get mad at you. Nosedive is a fun episode. I like this one. Hmm. Like, this episode's gotta be the most realistic out of all the Black Mirror episodes. Like, so basically in the society, there's like a rating system where every time you see someone, you rate them. Like, based on the interaction. And your rating decides like what stuff you'll get in society. Like, certain people get like access to like better cars and stuff, better houses. It's kind of like a currency. I would say they made a great job with like the cinematography and stuff in this episode. Like they make it seem so shiny and bright with like the way they film it. And all the like dialogue is very saturated and very conceited. To make it seem like all these people really care about each other, but no, they just want points. So like they did a great job with like all the inner details to this episode to really showcase like what would happen if society solely ran on like rankings, right? And points. And I feel like it's already kind of relevant because like Uber does this with like drivers and like people who ride the cars. And I heard China does this in their society too. Like I feel like it's very possible where we live in a society where our like status is determined solely based on like ratings. We already rate each other all the time. I said this episode is kind of like fun. I don't know what it is, but it's very relevant. I like it a lot. I will say for the ending, you can definitely see it coming, but I'm not even gonna complain because like I just found this episode to be so interesting and relevant. Look at that A tier. Okay, this one I actually just saw recently. Playtest. So basically, this one is like it's also a bit spooky. I'm not gonna say exactly why for spoilers. So basically, in this episode, there's a guy who signs up to become like a beta tester for like a virtual reality game, and then he works that the game is very realistic. And I would say the whole thing with the game is a bit of a stretch. Like I don't think we're very close to this kind of virtual reality technology yet, but there is some like terrifying stuff in this. So to get the spoilers, basically like this guy goes to the virtual reality. First he goes like to a haunted house, and then that's revealed that he's in another simulation where it's like he's actually like in the lab and things went wrong. And then there's another simulation where his mom has dementia and he thought he was finally out of the simulation. It's kind of like Inception where it's like simulation within a simulation and he can't tell what's real. Also, that's definitely scary. I don't know if we have the technology yet, but it is definitely a scary thought. I will say I kind of saw the ending coming because like the whole time I was kind of joking in my head. Okay, it's a video game all along. Like I've seen this thing before. But then I did not expect the guy to die. Like that was so surprising. But the irony is that it was because of his cell phone. Like the video game isn't what caused his death. And I think that's actually a really relevant message. Because like so many times we're told not to use our cell phone and we do it anyway. And there's like major consequences, right? Like drunk like not drunk driving. Driving with a phone. I know plenty of people who still use their phone and drive. Even though they're explicitly told not to. Like that obsession with phones is very relevant. And I feel like the ironic nature where he doesn't die because of the video game, he dies because of his cell phone. It's so tragic and scary. So for this episode, I'll say like those like nature with like the video game is like not that surprising, but like I feel like the ending definitely makes up for it. Like it's the ending scared me so much. It's the episode that everyone raved about, so I checked this one out. See ya, Junipero. Honestly, for this episode, it's definitely more fun episode. If you want like a more heartwarming message, okay, like it's a nice like happier episode. I think it's like one of the only episodes that has a happy ending to it that I've seen. So for this one, hmm, cause I'm be honest, I was kind of bored during this episode. Like, don't get me wrong, I liked the episode, but it's like not my favorite. Cause like the thing is like you definitely know what's gonna happen at the end, so there's no like real like suspense in it, which is kind of what I wanted from any Black Mirror episode. I feel like the episode's more about like social issues, like should we like get uploaded to like a virtual afterlife, the moral consequences with that, and just like kind of like social issues that they present here, where it's like, do you think it's right for us to go and live forever in this like paradise when people before us have died who we loved? Like that stuff is interesting, but like I was mostly kind of bored. It didn't really feel that relevant anyway because like it's the afterlife. And we are remotely close to that. I honestly, this episode wasn't for me. So, all right. Well, I've been talking for 20 minutes. I realize how long this would take me. I hated the nation. I'm moving my head over here because I don't like how it's blocking that. Okay, hated the nation. I actually really like this episode. Like, I think that it's very relevant. I think it's, dare I say, one of the most relevant episodes of this show. So basically, in this one, there are these little bees made by a group that's supposed to help repopulate the bee population, and they're genetically they're like computerized bees. I don't know how to describe them exactly. It's like a robotic bee, and basically these bees have been hacked by some like Facebook group that wants to kill unpopular people on the internet. So this group has been able to track down people to their exact location using social media and using these bees to kill them. And that is so relevant actually, because like look at how Google and Facebook are tracking all our information. They know exactly where we are, what exactly we're probably doing actually. They know all our interests. Like there's no privacy anymore. There's no safety honestly on the internet. But the fact that if there were digital bees that could kill us and they got hacked and went after people, I think this episode could definitely happen. It's very scary. I also like how this episode doesn't really hold back at the viewer. Like, I kept hoping that things would get better. I'm like, please, let's hope the beast gets stopped, right? I'm like, let's hope the bees get stopped and all these people get saved. Let's hope the bees don't kill the people. And this episode is just like, no. Like, people die regardless. It is so tragic. And like, it makes it so scary that there's no happy ending in this thing. I will say, I do have a little nag at this episode. Like they show that the guy who was responsible for all this gets tracked down at the end. And like I'm just like, how did they find him so fast secretly? That didn't feel right. Honestly, that's such a minor issue compared to how much I love this episode and how relevant I think it is. So I'm still gonna give this thing S tier. And this is a fun episode actually. I think this one also has a happy ending. So basically in this one, it's like there's a guy who makes like these virtual reality video games and he feels really unfulfilled. So he has like this his own like little virtual world where he uploads digital codes and creates like a world where he's like the leader of like a Star Trek-esque like adventure group. Now I found this episode to be fun because like I don't know, I got those old sci-fi vibes from it. It was fun to see like that kind of set, and like the adventure is just really fun. Also, the interesting part is like seeing how the digital clones like are still like people. Obviously, it's kind of far into the future, but like it's a fun episode, and I love how it has a happy ending. Seeing like the people go and save themselves is honestly nice. So I'll give this an 8 tier. And then we got Black Museum. So this one's a little complex. I don't know. So basically in this one it's like there's a museum with all these digital artifacts. And the cool part about it is there's actually references to old episodes. Like they show the girl from White Bear in this, which is kind of neat. That's the one that I saw. And if you saw anything else, you can comment that. So yeah, basically they focus on like multiple things here. Like one being like if you should like I think it's like you upload a person to your brain, like you upload their consciousness to a part of your brain or like to an object. That's one thing. Then they have like a digital clone that gets like real pain. So they kind of explore like multiple like facets of technology. And there's also like one where it's like the guy's addicted to pain or something. Like it is a cool episode to like see all like the little knickknacks at the museum. And I do like it, but I feel like there's just too much happening. Like I was mostly confused by the end of it. Like don't get me wrong, it's a fun episode, but like I just couldn't really keep track of what was happening. I was really confused. I have to say I love the dark humor of the episode. What do I think of this? I'm gonna read this at B tier. I will say, as you can see, it's been mostly a positive experience for the show, despite it being a very negative show. It's an eye-lifting show, so I would suggest checking it out. And again, if you have any recommendations for which episode I should see next, comment that below. That is all. Happy Halloween.